It is Tuesday afternoon, just about 3 o'clock, a little bit before 3 o'clock if you're joining us at this point. If you're joining us afterwards, it's just good to have you here. Chief Meteorologist Tim Miller. Let's do our afternoon update, sort of update you now on what we're looking at for today. Still dealing with this heat advisory that's in effect basically from Columbia southward, which includes all of the Midlands, the PD, the Grand Strand, all the way down to low country, then really into parts of Georgia, dealing with this heat index of 105 to maybe even 110, 112 down towards Charleston and Hilton Head. So it continues to be a hot day for sure. Not as hot in the upstate, but still nonetheless, it's toasty. Let's talk about from that because we're going to be getting rid of this heat index business. And by the way, today should be the last day of that. Once this front moves on through, we'll get drier air in the place. It'll still be rather warm Thursday, Friday, but we're done with the heat index for a while. And we're also getting to that point of the year to where we're maybe done with the heat index permanently. I'm not going to say that for sure because certainly the opportunity's there, but the opportunity is also getting less and less as we get into August, believe it or not. Severe weather. This is from the Storm Prediction Center. The yellow you see here is a slight risk of severe weather. The green is more of a marginal risk, less of a chance. This view is for the upstate, right? I'll show you right now. And this basically says main threat from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Well, we're not that far from 4. And if you're watching around 4 o'clock, I still think that's a little early for any of these strong storms, but it's something we'll keep an eye on. I think that they're probably a little bit later on. Let's do the Midlands version. I'll show you this, and it gives you pretty much the same area that we're going to watch for the potential of the best chance of severe weather, which would be up near Lancaster County, near Sharon. There's Newberry, south of Newberry will be the line. Newberry is south of the line here, but still you'll notice we have this slight risk of severe weather, which includes the upstate, the Midlands, then towards the PD. The biggest threat here with these storms would be damaging winds, the possibility of hail. But I will tell you this, my feeling is not everyone's going to see severe weather. Frankly, not everyone's going to get a storm. All right, so this is the best risk opportunity, but I think the big widespread outbreak of severe weather just isn't going to happen. But it is something we need to watch. And again, these storms that do form late this evening through perhaps maybe even a little bit towards the overnight will be one and done. There's not going to be these waves of storms. And once they do their business, they're done, right? So it's not going to be an all-night affair by any means. And I really don't think there's much of a tornado threat here with this. I have a lot of folks that get very concerned, when I talk about severe weather overnight, and I'm with you, the chances of there being a tornadic storm overnight. I hate that. Don't see that happening with this. Satellite view shows a very interesting view here. If you can see these things bubbling up in parts of Kentucky, this is West Virginia, Eastern Tennessee, North Carolina, of course. We're starting to see, this is where the front is. How can you tell? Notice we've got a line here. Maybe you have to squint maybe a little bit with this. But also the storms are blowing off towards the south, right? You notice they don't go anywhere towards the north here with this. I wanted to show you, but the air is going to be pointing and all this stuff. This is the line here of where that front is. And you'll notice we have these storms sort of blowing off. The tops are being blown off here. And that's because the front is north of this. You don't see a lot of activity there. Then you also see here parts of Tennessee into North Carolina here, just about ready to cross the border. These are the storms blowing up. This is the activity that we're going to watch that's going to move into our area as we get into tonight. And then same thing here. This activity will scoot down into North Carolina, then towards the PD Grand Strand tonight. So all of this that's currently blowing up here in parts of Kentucky, Virginia will quickly move on down, right? So this is going to move fairly quickly. That's the area that's currently blowing up that will continue to move down our area. And some of this energy as well will continue to fire off in the North Carolina and then produce more storms. We have what we call these outflow boundaries from these thunderstorms that produce this rapid amount of cool air that races out of a storm. That's why, have you ever noticed sometimes when it's real cloudy and breezy out, the sky gets all dark, and all of a sudden you get a cool breeze out of nowhere. It hasn't rained yet, right? But you get this cool breeze, and that is the rain cool air coming from a distant storm, and it feels great. But that rain cool air triggers more thunderstorms, right? And especially in this environment that we're in now, it's hot, it's humid, it's unstable. Anything that can help trigger those showers and storms is a mechanism that we watch. And that's why I believe the Storm Prediction Center still has us under a slight risk of severe weather. Let me show you this view here, sort of a broader view. You can see sort of a clearer view. Look at these storms firing up here, and almost like a line. Someone drew like a line that says "Do not cross north of that." That's where the front is, right? So up here in the Midwest, it is drier, a little less humidity, not as much corn sweat. Great story on the website that Amani did about corn sweat. You need to check that out. It's corn sweat. Trust me, you'll love it. But again, these are the storms blowing up. All right, let's get to our forecast. We're going to start 2 p.m. A little while ago. Nothing going on, right? Makes sense to me. All the activities towards the north. 3 o'clock, relatively quiet. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Still nothing going on yet. All right, it's still very hot, very humid. All the activities towards the north here. 6, 7. Notice by 7 o'clock, 8, we start to see a little activity now towards Charlotte, Rock Hill. And then as we get towards 9 o'clock, now we start to see the activity sag towards the south, right? And at any point, any one of these storms has the potential of producing damaging winds, the possibility of hail. By about 11 o'clock, the activity's in Columbia. But what do you notice with this? Not everyone gets in on it, right? So again, not everyone's going to be, even though the area that covers is pretty large, and there's a severe thunderstorm watch to our north, it may be issued further towards the south. I'd be surprised if it is. But stranger things have happened. Nonetheless, this is 11 o'clock tonight. The line of storms go through the Midlands, also towards the PD, Florence, Myrtle Beach. Notice as we go through the early morning hours, this is midnight, 1 o'clock now on Wednesday morning. And then notice as we get towards 2, 3, 4, 5, it's done. Charleston, you may not get anything from this. Things just washes out, which makes a lot of sense. There's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we're fine. So going back here in time, we'll start with the activity really started to move into the upstate by about 9, 10, 11, 12. There's midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So again, not widespread. The severe activity will be hit and miss, but those that get in on it will get damaging winds, quick heavy downpours, and the possibility of hail. I do think the tornado risk is low. So in fact, I'm not going to say not at all, but certainly as far as I'm concerned, it's less than 20%, and maybe even less than, maybe around 10%. But that chance is there. But again, remember what I always say, the odds of you being directly affected by a tornado is like that. So I don't expect to see much of that. In the meantime, we'll continue to keep you updated throughout the afternoon and the evening. If severe weather breaks, you'll know it here first. Be sure to share this with family and friends so it stays in their timeline. If you have any weather questions, as always, write them out and we'll get to it. And we're going to be doing a whole segment on answering your weather questions too. We'll talk more about that when we meet up again tomorrow morning.